If you're on a journey to make the juiciest, most tender ribs you've ever had, then every now and then you gotta try something new. And that's why I'm doing my first rib cook on the Offset Smoker. I asked you guys what I need to cook in which order, and you told me brisket, pulled pork, ribs. So here we are. We're gonna just wing it. We're just gonna do it, and we're gonna find out how good these ribs are. I got some nice racks. Of course, I got the PitmasterX seasoning. But first, let's fire up the PitmasterX Offset Smoker. First, I'm gonna remove some of that old firewood that's still in there. I just want to get rid of the ash with a completely empty and clean firebox. There's a little ridge sitting at the end here, but the latch here is here for safety, because if there's a little bit of firewood and it's sliding off the fire, it's not just going to fall out, it's just going to get stuck behind this latch. It is safety first in this matter. Oh, and the golden tip is to use a steel bucket like this, because embers can glow for a long time and fires can re-catch and start up again. And I see some barns burn down because of this. So this is going to go behind the Offset Smoker here, and later on I'm going to dump it in my garden because it's great food for the garden. The plants love it. And maybe someday it even turns into diamonds. I like to use the same wood that I'll be cooking with as my starter. Now this is a little bit big to start a fire with, so I'm going to chop this down. And the smaller you make these chunks, the faster your fire starts up. So depending on how much in a hurry you are, then just make them a little smaller. I'm gonna stack these up like a little Jenga tower. With a couple of fire starters, I'm gonna light up this fire. I'm just gonna put these little tumbleweeds in front, light them up, and the hot air will just suck it into the barbecue, making sure that the whole pile of kindle catches fire. And then we just wait until these turn into embers. I'm going to open up the lid to let the fire start up a little bit more easy. I'm also going to open up the damper all the way, and I'm just going to let that fire get started. And once it's burned down a bit, I'm going to add more logs to it. Bigger chunks to really heat up this Offset Smoker. Fire's roaring literally because the wind is coming in from this side into the pit, and it's really racing. So it's been maybe 5 minutes and I can already start stacking it up. There we go. Make sure that it's safe. And I think it's time we start closing the lids a little bit. I'm gonna close the smoke chamber. I'm gonna leave the damper fully open. Now, since the wind comes from that direction, it's just putting in so much pressure and so much force that I have to take it into calculation. And actually it's a good thing, because we now have the heat racing through, and if I want to slow it down, I can always do that with this damper. Slow down the airflow a little bit so that we don't get a dried out crust on these ribs later on. For now, I'm gonna leave them open because my goal is to get this barbecue as hot as fast as possible. And when I'm thinking about hot, I'm just looking for the temperature in the steel. I'm not looking at the gauge just yet. I'm just feeling how warm my Offset Smoker is, and as long as I can touch it still, it is not where I need it to be. I picked these beautiful ribs up this morning, and I still had a couple of ribs in my fridge, so I wanted to do them all. We got 6 beautiful rack of ribs, and the first job that I'm going to do is remove the membrane. Wiggle your dinner knife underneath and then just lift it up. If you got spare ribs, or you got St. Louis style cut ribs, I recommend just pulling from one side with a piece of paper towel. But with baby back ribs, this is just the fastest way to do it. Of course, then it breaks. Trying to be a smart ass, huh? Let's just screw him. There we go, all the membranes removed from the racks. If they're floppy bits like this, just remove that. Especially when you're serving it up to guests, it's just a little bit of effort trimming that off, making them look just a little bit better. Now it's time to season these. And the reason that I choose the PitmasterX Texas barbecue rub is because I want a light seasoning. A little bit of salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder. The recipe's super easy. You can make this at home. The recipe's on our website, or you can buy this at the PitmasterX shop, shop.pitmasterx.com. And what I want to do is just get a little light seasoning on the ribs, and with that it's going to be easier for me to determine the flavor that comes off this Offset Smoker. Now, of course, I want delicious ribs today, but then again, I want to taste the actual meat. I want to see the quality of the Offset Smoker pop out the most. It's not about seasoning this time as much as it is about the performance of the Offset Smoker. There we go. But it's just a little bit nicer to have How did I miss that? I feel much better now. It might be stupid, but it's just a thing. Just put a little bit of effort in. A little bit. I'm not asking for much. These are going to be some beautiful ribs, I tell you that. A little bit funny. No. All right, the ribs are ready to go in the barbecue. The offset smoker is now up to temperature. I can feel the radiation heat. I can see that we have about 110 degrees Celsius smoke temperature. So let's just do this.
So let's do it.
I'm gonna put the thinnest rack of ribs closest to the smokestack because the temperature is just a little bit lower there, but I'm pointing the thicker parts of the ribs towards the smokestack. Then I'm going to lay the thicker ribs next to that with the thickest part pointing towards the firebox. And the reason that I place the ribs like this is because there's a heat arch inside an offset smoker. The flames stay over there, but the hot air travels inside the smoke chamber and goes up, and then you can actually see the spot where the seasoning is the most intense, and then goes down again into the collector box. That means that we have two hot spots on our cooking surface, which is in the beginning and at the end. So I'm taking that into consideration, as well as that the hot air travels from right to left. So that's why I'm pointing the thicker parts of meat that take longer to cook and taking advantage of the hot air traveling over the ribs. Most of my firewood is burned up and I have just a little chunk left. I got some embers at the bottom, which is basically the base fire. And that means that the temperature is going to be going down in a bit, so I need to add some more wood. But at the same time, I also need to add flavor to the meat. So the ribs are a little bit more delicate than, let's say, pulled pork because of the thickness of the meat. But still, my experience so far has been that the beechwood produced a less smoke flavor where I wanted a little bit more. So on the brisket, I was really happy with the flavor profile, but I thought I could use a little bit more smoke. And with the pulled pork, I was super happy. I did a cook with 50-50 beech and oak, and we're going to do that again. We're going to use 50-50 beech and oak on these ribs, and we're going to see the results. So let's put these in, close the lid a little bit. Of course, in the meantime, I will be checking the ribs to look at the color, see how it's changing and how much we actually need and what I'm looking for. It's been 2.5 hours and the temperatures have been a little bit higher than 120 degrees Celsius smoke temperature because I've just been playing around with the settings and I've been adding a lot of oak to get more smoke color on, to see if I can have it pick up smoke color, well, a little bit more than I would have with doing the 50-50. So I've been kind of had the plan to do the 50-50, but I'm leaning more towards a 70% oak and 30% beech. And I must say, I'm happy with the looks. In 2.5 hours, we now have beautiful looking ribs. Well, they don't look like they need a spritz because they look already really juicy, and still I want a spritz. I like a little bit of acidity to balance out the fattiness of the pork meat. So let's close this up and make a little spritz. Now all you need is just a spray bottle and some apple juice. There are many choices. You can use like vinegar, apple cider vinegar, which is really fantastic. It will break down a lot of that fat. And then you have to add something sweet to counterbalance that. Or you can just go with a little bit of apple juice, which in my case I prefer. I'm gonna go for this route, hoping that that will balance out everything and make the ribs taste freaking amazing without actually overpowering the flavors. There we go. Let's spray. Of course, the key with spritzing is that you do it often, at least every 10 minutes or so for a certain period, so that the moisture dries out and all of the flavor just sticks to the ribs. It's actually kind of fun to see how fast these dry up. It's like a thing that, well, I'm kind of exploring with this offset smoker. It's less than 10 minutes that I need to spritz them again to keep them moist, but these are also opportunities to add flavor and flavor and flavor, and I'm thinking that there's probably going to be a limit to how much I want to spritz these, and I'm just thinking maybe 4 times or so. If they dry up so fast, this one in the front, it's evaporating. The air takes on so much moisture that it's just poop, it's like it's gone. We're a half hour in now, and I'm just keep on spritzing it and it just keeps on soaking up apple juice like it's nothing. So I think it's time to stop now. We're at total of 3 hours, and if I look at the ribs, you can see that they actually picked up enough color. And we're actually close to the 70 degrees Celsius mark, which is funny because that's when normally you stop smoking your meats. I'm not gonna add anything. I just spritz these. They look amazing. I'm gonna keep them as clean as possible. Just lift it all at once. So normally I do a little bit of barbecue sauce on my ribs, and it's to do a really good experiment flavor-wise and not worry too much about the recipe, but I still want some tasty ribs. So I'm going to use a little bit of my good friend Unheim Barbecue Ausreinessen, his barbecue sauce, and I'm going to do a 50-50 split with the apple juice. Yeah. And then I'm just going to mix that up, and I'm going to spritz that on half of the ribs, and then the rest of the ribs I'm just going to keep as is, because I really want to taste the ribs as they are, smoke wise and barbecue seasoning wise, and then we can have a couple of them with a little bit of sauce and everybody's going to be happy. Oh, it's hot. Oh my. Just tasted that. Oh, I stuck my finger in my mouth and it tasted freaking amazing. And I almost think it's a shame that I'm gonna put this sauce on, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is gonna go back on the barbecue to get that sauce nice and I'm warning you. This is gonna go back on the barbecue to get it nice and sticky. Oh, another beautiful wreck. Wow. The meat is just tearing up. Look. Oh, yo. Looking so good. A little bit of that barbecue sauce. And in about 5 minutes or so, they're gonna hit a core temperature of 92 degrees Celsius, and then it's time to eat. Of course, resting is involved. This is gonna be so good. I'm gonna leave these on to get it nice and sticky, but I'm just gonna give them a little bit more time. Get nice and juicy and everything. Whoa. I'm gonna take them out of the foil to let some of that heat out. I'm gonna let them steam, basically. Let the hot air pop out. Basically, there's too much heat in the package. And if I just let that out while it's resting, it gets a little bit of time, but this looks so freaking good. We got the bones popping and everything. We even have meat tearing off of the top. It is fall apart tender. Oh, that is good. Look at this. That bone is just clean off. Look at how juicy that is. Insane. It just keeps flowing. We got the smoke ring is brilliant. The color is freaking good. Let's bite into this. It used to be neighbors climb the fences, but now it's just Venmo, texting, sending me money, texting me, please, please send me that good stuff. I can tell you, I'm sending you nothing. I'm keeping it all for myself. Now let's try the ribs that have been, oh, man, this smoker just keeps on surprising me. How? Can you see that? How good that looks? Amazing results. Don't you just want to eat that? How juicy is that? Comparison. It's completely different. It's apple juice and barbecue sauce on ribs is just magical. But having them natural so I can determine the smoke flavor is very important. And the sauce in the barbecue kind of melted away and it's like evaporated all of its moisture, stuck to the outside. Are these now the best ribs I've ever cooked? Well, no. I love the smoke profile. However, I think I can tune it down a little bit on the oak. And what I need is for a longer resting period. Can't fold the ribs for that. That's the Pitmaster. That's my problem. If you want to know more about the PitmasterX Offset Smoker, we sell them, so they're on our web shop, shop.pitmasterx.com. Go check it out. See you guys in the next video. In the meantime, I'll be eating loads of ribs.